Hello everyone, DC Seymour here, and welcome to Just for Laughs. It has been a while since I've made a video on the book that I've been reading lately, but that's what I'm going to do today. I did record a video of me reading the second chapter of this book, but for some reason, it did not come out the way I wanted it to, and I can't seem to get it uploaded to YouTube. So today I'm going to try again, and I will keep trying until until I have recorded the second chapter because it's not my most popular video, but it does get quite a few views, as in 2 or 3, and that's enough for me. So let's get right into this chapter. Buckets and Spectacles. Rainey, alone in the room now, was trying to make sense of what had happened. Why hadn't Rhonda Kimsby's name been called? Was it because she cheated? Did she have the wrong answers after all? And where did she get those answers in the first place? It was all very mysterious, and not in the least intriguing was Rhonda's behavior. When she was dismissed, along with the others, "Well, bust of luck, kid," she chirped, playfully musing his hair and scudding from the room in her cloud dress, apparently not in the slightest bit confused or disappointed that she hadn't passed. Rainey's musings were interrupted by the pencil woman poking her head in the doorway. We've finally gotten rid of the other children, Reynard. Had to give them some consolation donuts and hugs and whatnot. Only a few more minutes to wait now." She was already withdrawing again when Rainey called after her. "Excuse me, miss? I'm sorry you never told me your name." "That's fine, Reynard," she said, stepping into the room. "You've got nothing to be sorry for." Rainey waited for her to give her name. Instead, she simply wiped donut crumbs from her lips and said, "You had a question?" "Oh, yes. May I please telephone Miss Pearl, my tutor? No one has any idea where I am. I'm afraid she'll be worried." "Very good of you, Reynard. But don't worry. We've already called Miss Prumel, so it is all taken care of." The pencil woman began once again to retreat. "Miss, excuse me, miss." She stopped. "Yes, what is it now, Reynard?" "Forgive me for asking me this, miss, and I wanted to ask if it weren't important, but, well, you wouldn't happen to be lying to me, would you?" "Lying to you? I'm sorry to ask it, but you did tell Miss Prumel that I could use your phone this morning, and then later you told me there was no phone, so you see why I'm concerned. It's just that I don't want Miss Prumel to worry." The pencil woman seemed unperturbed. "That's a perfectly reasonable question, Reynard. A perfectly reasonable question." She gave him an approving nod and made as if to leave. "Miss, but you didn't answer my question." The woman scratched her head, and Rainey began to suspect that she was either a little daft or a little deaf. After a moment, however, she said, "I suppose you want the truth?" "Yes, please. The truth is I haven't called Miss Prumel, but I will do so immediately. In fact, I was about to call her when you asked me if I had called her yet. Does that satisfy you?" Rainey hardly knew what to say. He didn't wish to offend the woman, but he could hardly trust her now, and it was more important to know that Miss Prumel's mind was at ease. "I'm sorry, miss, but may I please just call her myself? It'll only take a minute." The pencil woman smiled. When she spoke this time, her voice was quiet and gentle. She looked at Rainey in the eyes. "You are very good to be so concerned about Miss Prumel. What would you say if I told you that I have, in fact, called her?" "No, don't answer that. You won't believe me." "How about this? I will relay her message to you. Do you see now that you didn't need good luck? I'm glad you wore matching socks. That is what she told me to tell you. Are you satisfied?" Before Rainey could make up his mind how to answer, she slipped out of the room, leaving him to puzzle over her mystifying behavior. The message from Miss Prumel was obviously real, so why hadn't she told him this in the first place? As he pondered this, he heard footsteps in the hall, followed by a timid knock at the half-door. A young boy's face appeared in the doorway. "Hello," the boy said, adjusting his spectacles. "Is this where I'm supposed to wait?" He spoke so softly Rainey had to strain to hear him. "I've no idea I have no idea. This is where I'm supposed to wait, though, so I'm more than happy to let you wait with me. I'm Rainey Moodlin. Oh, the boy said uncertainly. My name is Sticky Washington. I was just wondering if this was the right place. The yellow lady told me to come down the hall and sit with someone named Reynard. That's me, Rainey said. People call me Rainey for short. He put out his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Sticky Washington came and shook it. Sticky was a notably skinny boy, which Rainey suspected was how he got his nickname. He was as thin as a stick, with light brown skin, the color of the tea that Miss Brummel had made each morning. He had big, nervous eyes like a horse's, and for some odd reason a perfectly smooth, bald head. His tiny, wire-rimmed spectacles gave him the distinguished look of a scholar. A fidgety scholar, though. He seems quite shy, or at the very least anxious. Well, why shouldn't he be anxious, if he had been through what Rainey had been through today? Are you here for the third test? Rainey said. Sticky nodded. I've been waiting all day. I had to be here at 9 o'clock this morning, and the test was over at 10. Since then, I've just been sitting around in an empty room. Luckily, I'd have Pear with me, or I might have starved. I think all the other children got donuts. Why didn't we get donuts? I wondered the same thing. Were you the only one who passed, then? The first test, no. A little girl passed it, too. But I haven't seen her since yesterday. Maybe they told her to come at a different time. They had the test here all day. Was there an extremely small girl in your group, about half our size? Rainey shook his head. He would have remembered anyone so tiny. Maybe she's coming later. Anyway, as for the second test, yes, I was the only one who passed, which surprised me because... Sticky stopped himself with a glance at the door. He opened his mouth to continue, thought better of it, and at last pretended to notice something on the ceiling as if he hadn't been about to say anything at all. Obviously, he had a secret. Rainey had a sudden suspicion what it was. Because there was a girl who cheated? Sticky's eyes widened. How did you know? The same thing happened to me. I think it's a trick of some kind. Tell me this girl didn't happen to drop her pencil on the way into the building, did she? Out on the plaza? Yes, I couldn't believe anyone would take such a chance. We were only allowed to bring one pencil, you know. What did you do? I tried to help her. A few other kids said they were sorry, but they didn't want to be late. One boy even laughed. I felt awfully sorry for her, so I had her hold on to my feet and lower me down through the grate. She was as strong as a bear and had no trouble doing it. I'm so skinny I fit right through the bars. It was terrifying, though. I don't mind admitting it. Hanging upside down, scrabbling around in the dark. I think something even nibbled at my finger. But maybe I imagined it. I can get a little mixed up when I'm scared. You were lucky to find her pencil, Rainey observed. It was pitch black down in that drain. Oh, no, I didn't find it. But you know what she did? She hauled me back up through the grate and said, "Oh, well, never mind, I have an extra one." And she pulled another pencil right out of her sleeve. Can you believe it? Why would she let me go down into that awful drain when she had an extra pencil? I can't imagine. Then, to top it off, she offered me the answers to the test to repay me for trying to help her. Apparently they didn't do her any good, though. I'm glad I refused. Me too, Rainey said. I think refusing was part of the test. If we had cheated, they would have known it, and I doubt either one of us would be here. From a shirt pocket, Sticky took out a thin piece of cotton cloth and polished his spectacles. If you're right, that's a little creepy, that they're tricking us like that. He put his glasses back on and blinked his big, nervous eyes. But I shouldn't complain. They were very nice to let me continue to the third stage, even though I missed a few questions. Very generous of them. Wait a minute, Rainey said. How could you possibly have missed any? Did you circle the wrong letters by accident? Sticky seemed embarrassed. He shuffled his feet as he spoke. I'm sorry, I'm distracted by noises outside my house. of police cars passing by. It's unusual. Oh, it's a fire truck. It's an ambulance. It's weird just because my little town's so small, so whenever people go flying by or whenever there's an ambulance or anything, it's always just, you always look out and say, oh, do I know that person? Anywho, excuse me. He shuffled his feet as he spoke. Oh, well, I suppose the questions were easy for you, but for me they were rather difficult. Time ran out before I could answer the last 3, so I just had to circle some answers and hope I'd get lucky. I didn't, of course, but as I said, they are very forgiving. Rainey couldn't believe what he was hearing. Rainey couldn't believe what he was hearing. You mean you knew the answers to those questions? Sticky grew more dejected with Rainey's every question. Tears brimmed in his eyes as he said, Well, yes, I suppose I do look rather stupid, don't I? I look like a person who doesn't know any answers. I understand that. Rainey interrupted him. No, I didn't mean that. I meant that I'm surprised anybody knew the answers. 1 or 2, maybe, but certainly not all of them. Sticky brightened, smiling shyly and straining his back. Oh, well, yes, I suppose I do know a lot of things. That's why people started calling me Sticky, because everything I read sticks in my head. It's perfectly amazing, Rainey said. You must read more than anybody I've ever met. But listen, once you figured out the test was a puzzle, why didn't you just solve it that way? It would have saved some time. You could have finished it. A puzzle? You didn't notice that all the answers were right there in the test? I did notice a lot of information was repeated, Sticky reflected, but I didn't really pay any attention to it. I was concentrating too hard on getting the answers right. That question on cordiality, suspensions, really had me sweating. I can tell you, and as I said, when I'm nervous, I can get mixed up. After a pause, he sighed and added, I tend to get nervous a lot. Rainey laughed. Well, you didn't know it was a puzzle, and I didn't know any of the answers, but we're both here now. We'd make a good team. You think so? Said Sticky. He grinned. Yes, I suppose we would. The boys waited there for some time discussing the curiosities of the day. Sticky was more relaxed now, and soon the two of them grew comfortable together, joking and laughing like old friends. Sticky couldn't stop giggling about Rhonda Kimsey's crazy get-up. And Rainey smiled until his face hurt. When Sticky told him more about hanging upside down in the storm drain, my shoes started to slip off in her hands, Sticky recounted, and for a second I thought she was going to take them and leave me down there under the grate. I panicked and started wiggling like crazy. I think it was all she could do to pull me back up without dropping me. Then Rainey told Sticky about the pencil woman's sneakiness regarding the phone call to Miss Prummel. Instead of laughing, as Rainey had expected, Sticky slipped back into his nervous behavior. He began polishing his spectacles again, even though he had just done it minutes before. Oh, yes, he said. Yes, I tried to call my parents, too. Same thing happened, but in the end it was fine. She called them. Nothing to worry about. Rainey nodded politely. He saw perfectly well that Sticky was trying to hide something, but he hadn't thought of calling his parents and felt guilty about it. But Rainey decided not to press him on the matter. Sticky seemed uncomfortable enough as it was. So where do you live? He asked to change the subject. This only made Sticky polish all the harder. Perhaps he simply disliked personal questions. Well, he began. He cleared his throat. Well, just then the door flew wide open, and a girl raced into the room carrying a bucket. She was extremely quick. One moment she was bursting through the door, golden blonde hair flying out behind her like a horse's mane, and the next she was standing right beside them. Sticky leaped back in alarm. What's the matter? He cried. What's the matter with you? The girl replied. Excuse me, let me get a drink. gonna reach. Okay. I think that's better. Okay, let me get my bearings here. What's the matter with you? The girl replied calmly. Well, what were you running from? From? I wasn't running from anything. I was running to this room. Old Yellowsuit told me to come down here and wait with you two, so here I am. My name's Kate Weatherall. Sticky was breathing hard and casting glances at the door as if a lion might come flying in next. So it fell to Rainey to introduce them. I'm Rainey Moodlin, and this is Sticky Washington, he said, shaking her hand and immediately regretting it. Her grip was so strong it was like getting his fingers caught in a drawer. Sticky noticed Rainey's pained expression and quickly thrust his own hands into his pockets. Rubbing his tender knuckles, Rainey went on. I think the question is, why were you running instead of walking? Why not? It's faster. Now I'm here with you boys instead of trudging along that empty hallway. It's much better, isn't it? You seem like nice fellows. So why do they call you Sticky? She touched Sticky's arm. You don't feel sticky. It's a long story, Sticky said, regaining his composure. Let's have it, then, Kate said. So Sticky told her about his name, and then Kate revealed that she wanted a nickname herself. I've tried to get people to call me the Great Kate Weather Machine, she said, but nobody ever goes along with it. I don't suppose you boys would call me that, would you? It does seem a bit awkward for a nickname, Rainey said mildly. It takes a long time to say. I suppose it does, Kate admitted. But not if you speak quickly. I suppose it does, Kate admitted, but not if you speak very quickly. Let us think about it, Sticky said. Kate nodded, agreeing. She seemed pleasant enough. She had a very bright, watery blue eyes, a fair complexion, and rosy red cheeks, and was unusually tall and broad-shouldered for a 12-year-old. She announced her age right away, for children consider their ages every bit as important as their names. In return, she learned that the boys were 11, but what Rainey thought was most curious about her was her bucket. It was a good, solid metal bucket, painted fire engine red. As they were talking, Kate unfastened her belt and slipped it through the bucket handle and fastened the belt again so that the bucket hung at her hip. From the way she did this, it was obvious she'd done it 1,000 times. Rainey was fascinated. Finally, he asked her what it was for. She gave him a quizzical look. What kind of person doesn't know what a bucket's for? It's for carrying things around, silly. Yes, I know that, Rainey said, but why do you have one with you? Most people don't carry buckets around for no particular reason. That's true, Kate reflected. I've often noticed that, but I can't understand why. I can't imagine not having a bucket with me. How else am I to tote my things? What things? Asked Sticky, who, like Rainey, was trying to sneak a good peek at the bucket's contents. I'll show you, said Kate, and began removing things from the bucket. First came a Swiss Army knife, a flashlight, a penlight, a bottle of extra strength glue, which Kate examined to be sure its lid was tightly closed. She then produced a bag of marbles, a slingshot, a spool of clear fishing twine, one pencil, an eraser, a kaleidoscope, a horseshoe magnet, which she yanked from some effort from the side of the metal bucket. I've been through dozens of these, she said, holding up the magnet for them to admire. Excuse me. This is the strongest I've found. Finally, she showed them a length of slender nylon rope coiled around the bottom of the sides of the bucket. That's a lot of stuff to carry, Sticky remarked. It's all useful, Kate said, putting her things away again. Take this morning, for example. Some crazy-looking girl dropped her pencil down a storm drain out on the plaza. Rainy and Sticky looked at each other. And if I hadn't had my bucket with me, I couldn't have helped her get it out. She would have been up a creek without a paddle. A thoughtful expression came over her face. A paddle. That does seem like a good thing to have. But no, I suppose it'd be too big to haul around. Still, it would come in handy sometimes. Did you help Rhonda get her pencil back? Rainy asked. Of course I did. Now wait a minute. How did you know her name? Finish your story, Rainy said. We'll tell you later. So Kate told them about how she had pried up the edge of the metal grate with a screwdriver on a Swiss Army knife. After dragging the metal grate aside, she tied a rope to a nearby bench and lowered herself into the drain, using her flashlight to find the pencil in the darkness. It had rolled down into a crack, she explained, about 10.5 inches deep. So I put a drop of glue on the end and of some fishing twine. That's why it always pays to have a pen light, too, you know. You can hold it in your mouth and point it when you need both hands for something like putting glue on twine. Anyway, I poked the twine down into a crack until it reached the pencil, gave the glue a few seconds to dry, then pulled it right out. I couldn't have done any of that without my bucket, now could I? Weren't you afraid? Sticky asked. He had been terrified himself and didn't want to be the only one. Of what? Getting wet? It was perfectly dry down there. We haven't had rain for days. Something about Kate's story had caught Rainy's attention. How did you know that crack was 10.5 inches deep? I didn't see a tape measure in your bucket. Oh, I can always tell distances and weights and things like that, she said with a shrug. She glanced around. For example, just by looking at it, I can tell this room is 22 feet long and 16 feet wide. Sticky, irritated that Kate hadn't been frightened in the dark drain, was inclined to be skeptical. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure. Let's measure, said Rainy, fetching the ruler from the pencil woman's desk. The room was 22 feet long and 16 feet wide. Impressed, Rainy whistled, and Sticky said, Not bad. Okay, back to your story, Rainy said. Did Rhonda offer to help you cheat on the test? Kate's eyes narrowed suspiciously. You sure seem to know a lot about it. Were you spying on me somehow? If you were, then I guess you'd know I colored her on a loon. We weren't spying on you, but that's what I figured, Rainy said. So I take it you solved the puzzle, unless of course you knew all the answers. Kate snorted. Who in the world could possibly know all the answers to a test like that? Sticky did, said Rainy. It was Kate's turn to be impressed. Not bad, she said, and Sticky ducked his head shyly. Now what's this about a puzzle? Once again, Rainy and Sticky looked at each other. But if you didn't know about that, said Sticky, how did you pass? I didn't pass. Nobody in my session did. To tell you the truth, I think the only reason they let me stick around was because I helped Old Yellowsuit out of a tight spot. Of course the boys wanted to hear what had happened, and Kate was happy to oblige them. After the test was over, she said, Old Yellowsuit took us down the hall to give everyone donuts and tell parents that she was sorry but they had to go now, thanks for coming, and that sort of thing. Some of the parents were furious. One started shouting at how this was some kind of trick, and another demanded to know what the tests were all about. And Old Yellowsuit started to glance towards the exit. I could tell she was nervous, but a few people stood between her and the door, and she was trapped. I felt sorry for her, you know, 'cause I figured she was just doing her job, whatever it is. But at least she had given me something interesting to do today. So I decided to help her out. While all the grown-ups were yelling, and the kids were making themselves sick on donuts, I whipped out my Swiss Army knife, screwdriver, and took off the doorknob. Then I pointed and yelled, There's the man behind this all. That's him in the corner. And everybody turned and pushed against one another to see, except Old Yellowsuit, of course, who made a beeline for the exit. As soon as she was out, I turned off the light and closed the door, and the two of us ran down the hall. We had a good head start because it was dark in the room, and they kept reaching for the doorknob and not finding it. Finally, someone turned on the light, and I suppose they all came flying out like angry hornets. But by then we were hiding in a closet. After we heard the last person leave, Old Yellow Suit smiled at me and said, "I believe you should stay for the next stage of testing." And so here I am. "Amazing," Rainy said. "I can't believe it," cried Sticky. "You're a hero." "Oh, good grief," Kate said, frowning with embarrassment. "It was no big deal. Anybody could have done it. Now I've told you my story, so you have to tell me yours. How did you know about Rhonda Kimsby? And what's all this about the test being a puzzle?" Before they could answer her, the pencil woman poked her head into the room and said, "It's time for the third test, children. Please report immediately to room 7B. Then she disappeared again. "Where in the world is room 7B? Sticky said, exasperated. "She never tells us where anything is. It took me half the night to find the Monk Building." "I'm sure we can find it easily enough," Rainy said, but privately he was thinking about Sticky's words. Half the night. What was Sticky doing out in the city alone at night? Where were his parents? "You better fill me in quick," Kate said. "You know Old Yellow Suit isn't particularly patient." "You're right," Rainy said. "We'll tell you on the way." And with that, the three new friends went in search of room 7B. And, ladies and gentlemen, that is the last of this second chapter of the Mysterious Benedict Society, one of my favorite books. I'm sorry for the humongous delay and gap in between chapters. I'm going to try to put these up more regularly, but I don't do it like I should. And they will all be eventually in a playlist so that anyone who wants to listen to them can just click on the playlist and all the chapters for one book will come up. That's my plan. Also, anyone who watches this video to the very end, thank you very much. And please keep watching my channel because I have some big things coming up. I have an interview with a paranormal investigator, which is coming up, and his group, which is coming up here pretty quickly. I'm super excited. This is going to be a lot of fun for me. I hope it's a lot of fun for you guys too. Anywho, thank you very much, guys, for watching. Thanks for stopping by and having a laugh with me. Please like, subscribe, and come on back again sometime, guys, and have a laugh with me. Don't do it for me. Don't do it for anybody. Do it just for the laughs, okay? Anyway, thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. And oh, don't forget to leave comments. I love both good and bad comments, guys. I'll take anything right now. Thank you very much, guys. And see you next time that you stop by. See you later, guys.